And here we are on Religious Study Wednesdays. Hello, everybody. Welcome, my guest, Rambling Canuck, and the Professor. How are you guys
Hello, everyone.
today?
Well, can I call in sick because I forgot to study?
Dude, I've been, you know how deep Hindu is? I mean, for God's sake, I've been studying for 2 days and I feel like, well, obviously 2 days is not enough. So I'm obviously a novice, but I feel like an idiot talking about this stuff.
Hinduism is a very complex religion, over 1 million gods. It takes a minute.
So, what do you know about Hinduism, Rambling Canuck?
Absolutely jack squat.
Jack and squat. Good for you. Right on. And the professor, our religious studies expert.
Comparatively, I just know just above jack squat. So, Hindu is a very, very broad religion, very in-depth, cultural, and progressive, actually. It has definitely progressed since its creation.
And Kapla, bird of prey. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate that. Joining us, I should say. So, the studies I have done, the mainstream Hindu culture started about 1500 BC in the Indus Valley. What happened is the Aryans moved into the area. Aryans are not what you would think of as Yatis or the Hister contingent, you know. I'm not allowed to say those names. Although I'm not monetized, I might as well just go ahead and say them, but I'm still going to try remember myself. So it is not the Aryan nation that we think of today. The Aryans historically were a advanced people who went into rural areas. So they settled in the Indus Valley, and their combination, along with the persons in that valley, in the Indus Valley, created the Hindu religion, which is what we're talking about today. So, 1500 BC, 3,500 years ago, right? And that's what we're talking about now. The Aryans settled into the valley. The Aryans were big on personal and ritual cleansing. And so their control of water sources was one of the things that set them apart from the other tribes in India at the time. They were able to flush waste out of homes using the water systems. They were able to clean themselves with water and soap. And of course, ritual cleansing came from the herbs and tree limbs and things that they would burn to ritually cleanse themselves. So what is your thought on that, Rambling Canuck?
Oh, it sounds very, very close to a lot of other, shall we say, for the sake of argument, paganistical religions that we've covered.
Yeah.
It sounds very close.
It is very similar. Professor, what's your opinion on that? As far as the Aryans moving into the valley and creating Hinduism 3,500 years ago.
Actually, that's a very, very unique topic because of the fact that the Aryans were extremely technologically advanced for their time, or as far as we're led to believe, they are extremely advanced compared to a lot of the other tribes living in the area. At that point in time, you're looking at people coming in from the Vadas culture and the Anarta tradition, which were older. They're the older religions, which Hinduism actually pulls a lot from as well, dating back to the Anarta is 3950 BC, and the Ahar is around 3000 BC. So whenever the Aryans came in, they actually shifted a lot of the cultural aspects. They did bring hygiene. Everybody likes to give Romans the credit for plumbing and cleanliness and all that, but the Aryans actually had a very, very clean culture, and they actually were very vast conquerors. That's something that you don't really hear about with the Aryans. They were actually great warriors and metalsmiths, and for that time period, especially in that area, it was a very unique thing to be that advanced.
So, would you say that they were cultural appropriators?
Indeed. Whenever they came in, they definitely shifted the playing field quite a bit and adopted and garnered other tribes.
Okay, and this is a very controversial topic that I would like to talk about. Let's talk about the swastika. Because
which direction?
Well, no,
Because
in Hindu
there's
belief,
the good direction. There's the good direction, and there's the bad one.
Direction. The Hindu belief, the swastika is a holy symbol.
Yes, and facing the different direction.
Right. Well, right. I mean,
actually, the Hindu swastika faces the same direction.
Oh, does it?
It really does.
Oh, okay. Because most of the ones that are holy ones are the ones that go the other way.
So the only difference between the Hindu swastika and the swastika that was the symbol of the Third Reich is that it is actually off kilter. So it is actually tilted just a little bit, and that was due to flag placement.
Yeah, okay.
And hello, Mountains of Elysium. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. How are them rolling hills doing for you today? Or tonight, or this morning in your case, I guess. Anyway, yeah, the holy symbol of the swastika is still on many holy relics in the Hindu faith. A lot of temples still use the swastika. I still say it the German way. I'm sorry. The swastika.
The symbol that shall not be named.
And Kara is here. Hello, Kara.
He said hi.
Yeah, Professor. You don't have to say. Yeah, it's fine.
And yes, Mountains of Elysium, you were absolutely correct. It is not just in Hinduism.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the one that I was thinking about is in another one, and it goes left to right instead of right to left, which is the bad one.
Now, it had been a symbol of peace for thousands of years.
Yes.
Indeed. The Navajo Nation actually uses it.
Yeah, only in the last 100 years has it turned into something that nobody ever wants to see.
Yeah, and it's normally more curved than the straight lines.
That is true. It is curved. There's sometimes a box within the swastika. Each different symbol of the swastika actually represents a difference in the functionality of Dharma, which is actually a big thing in Hinduism.
Oh, we're going to get there. We're going to
So-
get there. We're still going through the history of creating it. So let's see. Oh, I'm trying to read my notes real quick here. Brahman is one of the main features of Hinduism, correct? So,
Brahma.
and the Brahma focuses on the soul and growth and the
No,
power.
that's Dharma. That's Dharma. Brahma is the god of creation.
We'll get to the incarnations of God a little later on, but Brahma is one of the features that there's two different thoughts, right, on what Brahma means. So you have Brahma, who there is only one principle of being. There's only one universe, one thought, one worldview. But within that one worldview, you have multiple realities.
The 9 worlds, yes.
So you have the sense experience of what I see is what I get, versus the enlightenment is what is underneath the reality of what I see. And you have to reach enlightenment to see that. Is that making sense? Like I said, I've taken the notes and I'm reading the notes right now, which is fairly difficult. But and Hindu is old religion that is very difficult to understand. So I really wanted to hit some highlights with it.
Indeed. Yes, the 9 worlds, 9 different realities, all to achieve enlightenment. You actually have to pass through each of the 9 worlds to achieve the enlightenment. That is the most common belief in Hindu.
Now, in the what was it, 900 BC, I believe. I didn't write that down. I should have written it down. Rama Natra is one of the leaders of that sect, who believed that there were finite and an infinite, and he believed that there was an existence of a god, a single creator god. So that's probably what you're thinking of, is the Ramanatra experience in Brahman Hinduism, right? Shankara is the one who believed that there was just one reality, and he was the first Brahmin, and that was like 1200 BC, something like that. Oh,
That is correct. That is the first division of Hinduism, actually. And it
Yeah.
actually created a civil war that was very, very bloody.
But the object of the Ramanatra dualist belief is devotion to a single god, or a creator god, I should say, and the devotee who accepts that devotion.
Indeed.
So that is a lot of what we see in Western religions. So what's your opinion on that, Rambling Canuck?
I don't think I really. Okay, sorry. Repeat the question. I was doing a quick scan of a couple things.
No big deal. The two different sects that became the common Hinduism were the Shankara Brahman version, versus
Okay.
the Rama Natra Brahman version, and
And
Shakara.
you're comparing them to the Christian faith to
Well,
a degree, I guess.
I'm
Like
comparing them to
you're
Western
like the split.
religions.
Yeah, so the split between the your Catholic
One is all
Catholicism.
self and one reality versus many realities that enlightenment will show you.
Yeah.
So
But a divide within the religion.
yeah.
Okay. So their version of our faith is split up into like 16,000 different variations. So yeah, I
Yeah.
can see it. Just saying.
Yeah, you all kind of went for instead of the million gods, you went for the million different churches. So
Yeah, it's one God, just 16 definitions. It's all good.
That is a big problem with Western religion. Is we do have one God, but it is multiple ways of worshiping that one God. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Cross your fingers and hope for the best. Yeah. It's just the way it goes.
And Mountains of Elysium, Buddhism is not actually an offshoot of Hinduism, but we are getting into Buddhism next week.
Oh joy.
Buddhism actually did come from Hinduism, but it's not an offshoot. It's actually a completely different belief system.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we'll get into that next week. Okay, so we talked about the devotion of the faithful to the devotee, who would be a god. In this case, not Brahma, but doggone it. I totally lost my mind already. Oh. And it's not Hare Krishna. That was an avatar of the god.
Yes, Krishna is a god in and of itself.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll get into avatars here pretty soon. So the Brahman version of Hinduism, which is what most people are understanding and knowing about, that is not necessarily a worship of land or the earth, I should say, but it is a caretaker view of earth. So less pollution, less manufacturing, less industrial stuff. Is that correct, Professor?
Yes. Looking at the Brahman version of Hinduism, which includes the millions of gods, all envelop every aspect, every rock, every creature, everything is connected to these gods. And by harming them, by creating pollution, destroying things, etc., actually is a very, very bad thing. So yes, that is correct.
Okay. And there is actually a sacred text, not written down by original viewers or witnesses of events. However, it is a oral tradition that was written down. I would say recently, but it was like 2,000 years ago. So it's called the Vadas. And
Yes.
it was translated into Shruti, right? Shruti?
Yes, that's close enough. I can't say it either, so.
Okay. And again, this is supposed to be read out loud. It is supposed to be read out loud because if you're just reading it, you lose a lot of the inflection and things that we are expecting to hear in the retelling of a story.
Yes.
And so this is mostly an oral tradition. However, the Vadas was written down specifically so that it could continue on throughout the ages, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And this is again, I've done 2 days worth of research and I've called multiple Hindu temples. Unfortunately, I only got one person who responded to me from a temple, and she was not able to come on today. So unfortunately, we're going off of what I could get off of my comparative religious texts.
No worries.
So we can actually go into the Dharma and Karma now. There are 3 versions. There's Dharma, Karma, and Artha. So what is Dharma, Professor?
Dharma is the way of life. It's what defines how you live your life. That is exactly what Dharma is, actually. Direct translation from Dharma is actually the way of life.
Okay. I wrote it down as righteous living, but yeah, that makes sense. So the translations, of course, are subject to differences, but yes,
Of course.
way of life or righteous living makes sense. Okay. So what is karma?
Karma is what happens whenever you don't follow Dharma. Say you kill something, you have added karma into your life. And karma will always put you lower on the food chain for reincarnation, more or less. Karma is something that you actually don't want. Everybody nowadays thinks good karma, bad karma, doing a good thing will raise you up, doing a bad thing will raise you down. But actually, following Dharma will raise you up, while karma is actually a negative aspect in the world.
Now, see, I wrote that down differently. My text has a different definition of karma. It's not what you do bad comes back to bite you in the ass, but karma is satisfaction or gratification. And the 3 aspects of the moksha would be dharma, karma, and artha.
Yes.
And so those 3 go together and they balance each other out in order to reach moksha.
Yes,
So
which is enlightenment.
Karma is not like put good vibes out into the world and you'll get good stuff back, but it is a satisfaction or gratification of the body.
Right. Because your body is connected to your soul in Hinduism, like a direct correlation, which is how you get into reincarnation. You Dharma, which is your way of life. That is how you're going to be a good person and reach spiritual enlightenment and get to the final realm. Karma is the negative aspect of pleasing yourself, something that you have to do. And Artha actually directly translates into wealth or property.
Correct.
And so that actually balances itself out, because if you're living your way of life, you should not have, according to a lot of like the Hindu priests and things of that nature, the Brahmins themselves, pardon my Christian fucking thought process here, but you should not have accumulated wealth without divine satisfaction of karma, because somebody has to lead therefore they are putting themselves above you and ruining their own dharma, exacting karma to achieve artha in order for everybody else to achieve enlightenment. And that's one of the base things of Hinduism.
So those three aspects of moksha balance each other out, or should balance each other out.
Should.
Meaning you're living a righteous life while satisfying the needs of your body and also accumulating wealth, whether that be knowledge or physical wealth on earth.
Indeed. Indeed.
But those three aspects of moksha balance each other until you finally reach the ultimate goal, which is the liberation of the soul or enlightenment.
Yes. And depending on which sect of Hinduism that you belong to, it can be easier to achieve or more difficult.
Okay, so explain a few of the ways that it could be easier or more difficult.
In the nine worlds theory, right? In that theology, where you believe in 9 realities, you're reincarnated 9 times. Now, this is throughout your entire existence of a soul. You're reincarnated 9 times. There's not infinite reincarnations. Okay? You're reincarnated 9 times exact. The first time you were born mortal, and during this time, you have to follow Dharma to achieve your second reincarnation. Now, if you lived a horrible life and you did bad things, you could be reincarnated as, say, an insect or et cetera, instead of something higher up on the food chain, say a tiger or a cow. That is actually very, very common. I know that a lot of Americans and Western religions like to make fun of, that cow's my uncle. But that is an actual belief, because they achieved that holiness to achieve up to become a simpler way of life.
Right, the sacred cow, and we can talk about the sacred cow. It is believed that the cow is a better, not necessarily higher, but a better form of life in the Hindu religion. Is that correct?
Yes, that is completely correct.
And that is where we get the sacred cow thought, or the sacred cow saying from.
Yes, even though other religions have used bulls and cows to do sacrifices in or with, Hindu do not. If you have to kill a cow, right? If you have to, you are exacting a huge amount on your soul. But in doing so, you are allowing that cow to fulfill its purpose and go on to its next form of reincarnation, because it was the best cow it could be. It was needed at that point. Beef was a very, very large commodity, especially in ancient India. So beef was looked at in a very sacred way, because how could something that gives so much sustenance be nothing but holy? And that's where that comes from.
Okay. So let's talk about the moksha for a few minutes. The moksha is the goal that people are striving for in the Hindu faith.
Yes.
The moksha is the liberation of the soul, so that you are capable of seeing the multiple levels of reality.
Yes.
And how is that achieved, other than the 3 paths, of course, the Dharma, Karma, and Artha?
It is not achieved by any other way than following the Dharma, Karma, and Artha. Actually, That is what makes the religion so confining. It is the third largest religion in the world, believed by 1.25 billion people at this point in time. But that is the only way to achieve enlightenment, according to the Hindu faith, is following the Dharma. You have to follow it. And by doing so, you are allowed to see these other lives. Now, as you progress, if you look at it as a pyramid, as you progress up this pyramid, you can also drop below a pyramid. It's where your soul actually gets recycled and cleansed. But you are never you again. And that's the bad afterlife. It's not so much torture and things like that. It's you have to wait your turn again. And it could take billions of years to take. There's a realm under the pyramid.
The soul actually goes back to the source, or in my case, I would say heaven, right?
Right.
So the soul goes back to the source and waits for its turn to come back.
If it goes to the wrong afterlife, yes. If it achieves enlightenment and you are in the 9th realm, you have achieved godlyhood, basically. You have achieved everything, and your soul actually will be part of the world itself, because the world is perfect. Okay. And therefore, you actually pretty much become a god in and of yourself. In fact, whenever I went to school, only 4 people had been claimed to reach this 9th level of enlightenment. And no, I don't know their names.
Yeah, I didn't go that deep into the research either, so I would have written them down.
Right. That is something that now I can give you generalized knowledge, which is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Hinduism is a very complex religion containing over 1 million gods. In fact, there's a god higher than the creator, represented by the elephant, actually. And his name is Bo. That is just a simple B and an O. He is the god of everything.
So not Ganesh then.
No, Ganesh is Brahma is higher than Ganesh, and Bo is the creator of the gods themselves. He created the eternal balance in the world. And in the universe.
Okay. Well, wild, but all right.
Yeah, it gets really, really complex at that point in time. If we're talking about the gods of Hinduism, it gets really, really complex because every god has an avatar, and every god is an aspect of Bo himself, which makes every god Bo, but Bo is not every god. It gets really, really complex.
Yeah, I was actually going to say we could move on to the incarnation of God or gods.
Indeed, we can actually do that.
Their avatar. Now, in Christian faith, my faith,
yes,
the avatar of God was Jesus Christ.
More or less, yes. He was the birth of the God. Yes.
Yeah, he was the birth of the God, and he only came to Earth as a man. Now, in the Hindu faith, the incarnation of God or the avatar of God could be a man or an animal.
Now here's something that's really, really interesting on that aspect. Yes, gods can show themselves as a mortal being, and this is to not scare the mortals of which they are safeguarding and attempting to lead down the path of Dharma. What every animal holds an aspect of the gods, and every action on the planet holds an aspect of the gods. So everything that is done actually is of the gods. Literally. So take Shiva, for instance. 4 arms. She's the goddess of death and judgment. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But she can be superseded by Brahma. Bo never gets involved in anything. The absolute number one creator never gets involved in anything. And if we want to draw a direct correlation to Christianity, God himself does not necessarily get involved in things. He sends his angels to do it. God hasn't really got involved since the Old Testament, right? Bo has not got involved since the creation of the earth because he does not want his influence to reach out and affect everybody. He wants everybody to be able to make that choice. He wants life is a trial in Hinduism. Life is a complete trial. You have to do good, but you also have to do bad, but you have to find balance in that to climb the ladder in order to become one with him again. Because everything comes from him, so everything will go back to him eventually. And as for incarnations, you were talking about Krishna.
Yeah. And Krishna was born a baby.
Yes.
He was a man-child. He was swapped out with a female child in a small village. And then that female child ended up being the four-armed goddess. What's her name?
Shiva.
Shiva. That female child ended up being Shiva. So when the king went in to kill the female child of his sister and her husband, she fully formed as Shiva, and the king was afraid, right?
Yes. The king was completely afraid. For the aspect of death stood before him.
Yeah. But Krishna actually lived a normal child life, playing games and playing pranks on other people in the small village that he was swapped out in.
Yes, because he was a deity in and of himself. He is the 8th avatar of the god Vishnu. And in some sects, he is actually the supreme god, which is actually another division within Hinduism. Because whenever you have a million gods, who is the right one? How do you know? So on and so forth. But he was born a man, and he was very, very trickery. That would be a good word for him. Is he was basically an aspect of trickery, but he is actually the god of compassion, tenderness, and love. He actually comes to people as a young boy playing the flute to lead them out of the forest whenever they're lost. He is he does a lot of stuff like that. But again, he is the avatar of Vishnu.
Again, he's not a trickster god, though.
No, he is not actually, but he did enjoy being a mortal man.
And he enjoyed playing tricks on people in the village that he grew up in.
He did. Actually, one of the oldest things of Krishna is, as I said before, Bo does not get involved ever. And Bo actually came down and told him that if he would do this, he would live his life as a mortal again and again and again, which is actually why he began to show that, because Bo actually, using Shiva, claimed his mother. So, as a punishment for his own karma. That's something that is highly disputed, but it is one of the most common texts in Hinduism.
Okay. And Rambling Canuck, you wanted to say something about the religious symbols?
Yeah, the one that we brought up is, of course, the most obvious that, people look at it and go, well, what the hell? But for Western religion, there's another symbol in Hinduism that is very, very similar to one of one of the more prominent Western religions. That
And
being
I'm
Judaism.
sorry, Rambling Canuck, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second here. Welcome, Krishna Kumar,
Hey, how's it going?
or in other words, TWTG. Thank you. We like your nerdy content, and I appreciate you being on the show. Rambling Canuck, you want to go ahead and carry on with that, the symbolism?
Well, it's just because, as I say, I didn't study, but I've been doing some scans while everybody's been talking. And one of the symbols I find very interesting, and that's similar to the Western religion, is the similarities between one of their symbols and the Star of David, because it's basically the same thing except a dot in the middle.
Yeah, you're talking about the geometric shapes and stuff and symbols that are used in Hindu?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's basically a Star of David, except it has a dot in the center.
That would be the different types of symbols they refer to as yantras.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just found that interesting how, as we look at all these different religions over these last couple of weeks, we've looked at different religions. You can always find something that reminds you of something else, whether it's either in the teaching or in the practice or at its core roots.
Yeah.
And same with symbols and markings and such. You can find a lot of different. It's almost like it was
crossover.
embedded. Yeah, it was almost embedded common ground, right? So it would be recognizable to outsiders.
Some of the symbols are based on mathematics.
Yes.
And the mathematics are like a constant. So
exactly.
You're on one side of the planet using this mathematics to draw up these symbols, and you're on the other side of the planet and you're still using the same mathematics.
The same symbols,
so you say it draws the same symbol. Yeah. Because still 1 + 1 is still 2 no matter where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I through my scans, I found that really interesting because it's like, for us, in Christianity, a lot of people think, well, the cross is, the only people who would use that as Christians. Well, that's not necessarily true. And, and you can go, right. So I just, that's always something that always fascinated me when I'm looking at different religions is where, not so much where they differ, but where you can find commonality. And it's really interesting in that sense.
Now, Runs with Phantoms asks, what's the difference between that and a Merkaba?
I think the Merkaba is a three-dimensional shape.
Ah, okay. So I'm
not 100% sure on the appropriate definitions of things, but from what I understand, you've got the Star of David type thing, which is like a flat two-dimensional thing. But then if you take each of those triangles and turn them into pyramids, that's the Merkaba.
Oh, okay. Wow.
It makes a perfect geometric shape, actually. Multiple triangles.
Symbolism. That is excellent symbolism. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a pretty cool
Now,
little symbol to play around with.
just to Krishna Kumar, to bring you up to speed on this, we've talked about the foundation of Hinduism, 1500 BC in the Indus Valley. We talked about the Aryans, who settled in the Indus Valley and helped to create the Hinduism faith. We talked about the Brahmins, the one principle of being versus the dualist principle of being. We talked about the Shruti or the Vadas, whichever is okay. We talked about Dharma, Karma, and Artha, leading to Moksha. Am I saying those words correctly?
Close enough.
Okay. And then we talked about the incarnations of the god or gods as avatars, either man or animal. So, what is your opinion on any one of those subjects?
The whole like with as the two things I was going to say. One was with the pronunciation and the names and the appropriate ways of saying things. For the most part, I found that most of the people in general conversation, they're not too worried about pronunciation. The only time where pronunciation really is looked at as important and the names you're using are looked at as important is in specific ceremonies where you are using those names to invoke different things.
Okay, so I am forgiven for mispronouncing words.
Yeah.
That is a good thing.
And I think the idea of the idea Hindu has of not only the gods regularly manifesting into human form just to like do stuff like it's common for the idea of a god manifesting as like a homeless old man and then sitting out in front of somebody's lawn and just like letting anyone come and serve them, give them a bowl of food, or like just experiencing life. Is that but the idea
similar
with that
to the text in the Bible. If someone knocks on your door and asks for a bowl of soup, right, are you going to turn them away, or are you going to give them a bowl of soup? And so it's similar in the Christian text as well.
Yeah, I think that's something that I think should be like in the Christian text and in like the Hindu text. It's something that I think that we really should look at and sort of go that like the idea that you should treat people and strangers you come across as if they could be God, or as if they like and that they should treat you the same. I think that that's like it's a good way to foster a friendly community.
Now, I know that I got you the link very late in the chat, and I apologize for that. I just totally forgot to send the link to you earlier.
That's okay.
I know
it's pretty early for me.
Very early for you anyway, but I just totally forgot to send it to you. Can we move on to yoga? And no, yoga has two different aspects to it as well. But yoga actually means the integration of self. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say that yoga is more of like just any practice. Like sitting and meditating could be a yoga.
Okay, yeah, and that is there's two different paths, right? The path of action, where you do the forms, like the downward dog and whatever else they use in Western society to imitate yoga. And then you have the path of devotion, which is literally just meditation the entire time.
Yeah, no, I'd say that you could take all the teachings of different types of yogas and separate most of them out into ones that are focused primarily on a physical thing and one that's focused on physical and less of a physical thing. Like you can. I'm trying to remember the names of the different sort of yogas. Like there's trying to remember it. It's the I can't remember it off the top of my head, but there's it's basically the yoga is like devotional service.
Well,
So
physical,
there's
the physical would be hatha yoga.
but then there's like hatha yoga, Bikram yoga,
And then
and a
you
bunch
have
of other types of yoga, and each
sutra.
one is like different.
So you have sutra yoga as well.
Well, sutras are more of, from what I've been told, are more like there's like they're sort of thought of as you can attain certain abilities and certain understandings and things like that, and through doing different types of yogas and through holding certain positions and doing certain meditations.
And what most of Western civilization is doing when they think of yoga, they're thinking of hatha yoga. Is that correct?
They're thinking of mainly, just doing sort of exercises and stretches. But then a lot of the yogas that will use stretches and positions are also also employing a meditation as well, or some sort of philosophy as well. It's mainly in a sort of more westernized version that I've seen, where people separate out the physical benefits of it to the spiritual benefits of it.
Okay. Wow, that has taken up the entire hour. That is amazing. I do want to get into the spiritual aspects of this, and I've got another half hour before I have to go on another live stream. So I'm going to ask this. Between July and November, Vishnu sleeps. Is that, if I understand correctly? I mean, I've taken these notes out of my comparative religion texts. So I need clarification on this.
Like a lot of the gods and stuff like that, they relate not only to the idea of so you've got the deity itself in a non-physical form, which I would refer to as it's a generalized field, or like a way of doing it is using death and saying that for like death exists as the angel of death, it exists as just death, it exists everywhere, a field. And then we anthropomorphize it, so then you have the deity itself, which is death, and then you not only have that, but you have constellations and planets as well. So a lot of the time they can be saying that there's a lot of things to do with timing and stuff like that, because they'll say at certain times of the day and certain times of the year, the planets that are connected to these deities aren't visible from it would be India at the time, because that's where they're doing stuff. So from India, these planets aren't visible. So they might be visible on the other side of the planet, but the point being that they are that's where these sort of ideas that the deities sleep for such periods of time sort of came from. At least my understanding of where it came from. Okay. I don't know. Like a lot of my understanding, a lot of what I've learned doesn't necessarily come from learning comparative religions and going to university. It's more like what I've picked up and what I've learned as I've going up to India and lived in the ashram and stuff like that.
Sure.
And they don't sit you down and give you a textbook and teach you stuff like that. It's like they allow you to pick up and learn things. You've really got to do it yourself to a big degree.
Okay, that's actually a very good insight to the lifestyle of a Hindu follower, right? And so that's the kind of aspect I really wanted to get out of this. Can you actually tell me about the Diwali, or the Festival of Lights?
Festival of Lights, yeah, that's like it's like it kind of like a Thanksgiving-ish, in the sense, like, you know how Thanksgiving is how you come together and you say what you're thankful for and what you want to sort of like do, like sort of like a New Year's sort of thing like that.
Okay.
It's sort of celebrated in that sort of thing, as like people coming together and you're sending off all these lights as a sort of way to sort of like your hopes and wishes for the new year, and like thankful for the things that have been good, and sort of at the same time you're sort of venerating your ancestors and gods and stuff.
And the goddess of that festival would be Lakshmi.
It depends on where you are, because a lot of the different the like if you go to different parts of India, you get like small towns and tribes that have a specific deity that is like the deity of that little area. So like there may be that it's a I'm just trying to think of like almost any of the female deities would be interchangeable, but say it's a Druga um, town, then that's their sort of patron deity for that town. They're more likely to be venerating Druga at the time.
Okay. So the Festival of Lights is basically what we would consider a harvest festival in our case.
Sort of, yeah.
Okay. Right on. Right on. You know what? It has been fantastic to have you guys on. It really has been. Our professor, who is a comparative religious studies, well, the only expert I have, who is in comparative religious studies. And
Only a little bit of an expert, not much.
Krishna Kumar, thank you very much for being a part of this panel. I really appreciate it. Thank you
very much.
Yeah, I even learned some stuff.
Thank you for getting up really early to do this with me.
I just wish I had been able to get up earlier. It would have been quite enjoyable to have seen the rest of it and joined in the rest.
Yes, it would have been helpful.
I should have sent you the link earlier. I apologize for that, but
That's okay. I don't know if I would have made it anyway.
We've had a half hour of pretty good content, so I'm pretty happy about that. Let's go around the panel and see what's coming up this week. Rambly Canuck.
All right. Well, as usual, I have karaoke tomorrow night. And then Friday, I'll probably do a live stream. I'm not sure whether it'll be morning or afternoon yet. And then Saturday, karaoke. Also Friday on History with R&R, which is my secondary channel I do with Franklin Oliver of Doom. We will have the first, the World War I era of Mussolini will drop. And then next Tuesday will be the Titanic radio show. Basically what it is we do a radio show as if we are reporting from that actual event. So the one we did before this was Pearl Harbor, and it was really fun to do. This one will be reporting from the Titanic, like the reporter is there when it hits the iceberg, the whole 9 yards. Many members of the community are usually involved in those. So you'll get different voice parts by different people. Mr. CCDV is in this one. He was in the one before as well. And so it'll be fun on two aspects. One, it'll be a really fun way to look at history. Secondly, you get to play Who's That Voice? So it's a little bit of fun.
Yeah, nobody asked why Mr. CCDV got bombed, but they asked about Jeff Franklin.
Yeah, they just worried about Jeff Franklin. They didn't care that you got blown up. We blew you both up, but the only people cared about Jeff Franklin.
Professor, you got your channel up and running?
Not yet, but it is coming this week. Our first take is actually going to be the vampire on Myths and Monsters. So that will be coming this week. I'll definitely get you guys involved if you guys don't mind. It'll be my first actual live stream where I am actually hosting.
Right on.
Could I actually answer some of these questions from Runs with Phantom real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
The Merkaba, and I apologize if I completely botched that, but as far as I understand, the Merkaba represents balance and is actually represented by a 20-sided, almost like a 20-sided dice. Now I could be completely messed up on that, but that is from my understanding and research. And Vishnu, Lord of Light, that actually comes from, and I could be completely wrong with this, but the Trimurti. I don't really know too much about that, but that's whenever Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva rule in heaven. So that's where Vishnu gets the Lord of Light. So, just to answer your questions.
And like each deity, I think, has like 108 names, and each one has like a different meaning, like Lord of Light, or the one with ashen skin, or the one with a thunderbolt body, or something like that.
Excellent, excellent. See, I'm learning stuff too.
Right on. That's why I do these streams. I want people to understand the religious aspects of Eastern religion, Western religion, whatever the case may be. I mean, the first couple of weeks obviously were based on Christian religion because that's what I know. But I really enjoy doing these shows, and you guys have been absolutely fantastic.
We're gonna
Krishna
get back to
Kumar,
stuff I know about, right?
say again, Rambly?
We're gonna get back to stuff I know about, right?
Eventually, yes. Krishna
No.
Kumar, you want to tell us what's coming up this week?
Yeah, I've got on my channel is TWTG content. This week we have a game show full of puns and laughter. So check out that. And the week after that we have a Let's Watch where we're watching currently. I think we're up to the 3rd episode of the FX TV series Legion. And just with the Hindu stuff, I just wanted to say one thing I noticed the most being up in the mountains living in the ashram was that a lot of Westerners go to these places in order to be given some sort of special powers or some sort of insight or knowledge, something they can then take back and use to elevate themselves in the West. They're wasting their time, and it doesn't matter how impressive you are, you're not going to impress any guru to teach you something.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
It's
I
okay,
do.
but it's
I like
I
laughing
laughed
at
at them.
Westerners.
Hey, I had a time where I'm sitting there with the guru after a meditation, and there's a bunch of Westerners talking about how they're on such a high spiritual level because they've thrown out their TVs. They have, like, they're saying they spent thousands of dollars on these really big, expensive TVs, and they just threw them on the side of the road and as if it was nothing because they're on such a high level, and they haven't ever, like, from the day they started on the spiritual path, they have not even had any type of sugar whatsoever has not passed to their lips because they're on such a high level. And the guru sits back and says, you know what? When you've been out working all day and you've been working really hard and you come home, you know what's really nice is to sit down in front of the TV and drink a sweet cup of tea.
Ah, that's brilliant.
We laugh at them all the time like that.
Oh, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Oh, I've
Yeah,
known
that sort of stuff would happen all the time.
That happens in every religion too. It really does. I've known pastors who were like, "Oh, let's go watch a football game and drink a beer."
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
You know, parishioners who are like, "Oh no, we can't drink beer. That's wrong."
Okay.
We didn't do
Well,
Judaism yet, have we? We haven't done
No.
Judaism yet.
We
Okay.
haven't done Judaism yet.
like the basically, if you're in the ashram and you're in there and you're like you're on the like what they would consider the holy land, you don't there's no eating meat. They have a rather strict vegetarian lifestyle. But then, like when if you're not there and you say go back to the West and people are starving themselves, and like they'll only eat like a handful of veggies because they're trying to be like do the right thing, and they're Hindus now and they don't eat any meat. And the guru is like, "What are you doing? Like you're not supposed to be trying to kill yourself doing this. Like, what's the point? What is the point in you like starving yourself to death and being sick and weak all the time, and you can't go out and do any good things?"
Isn't that the entire basis of Jainism as well?
I'm not sure about Jainism, but yeah, she's basically saying like if you need to eat meat, and like it's far more important who you are and then what you eat and which god you worship. Those are the sorts of lessons you pick up by just being there.
You know, the Apostle Paul said something similar. If all they have is bacon, eat freaking bacon.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's been many gurus that have said the same sort of thing. It's like if you're living out, there's parts of India that are like barren, flat, and nothing grows. If you're living out there and you're only to live off what things you can grow on the land, you're going to die. You have to kill an animal and eat it because you'll die if you're out in the middle of nowhere. So do it.
And that's why
So the
Hindu beliefs actually integrate very well with many other
yeah.
religions. It's pretty amazing, actually, the amount of integration that Hindu goes into, because you're not restricted to just being a Hindu. I mean, a Hindu is a way of life.
Yeah.
It's a way of
It's a way of
integrating your
looking at
body and
things.
soul, but it is not necessarily a religious belief.
Well, then the Hindu think all the gods exist, regardless of what religion they're in. So they believe they essentially there is an argument to be made that Hinduism believes in all religions, or is a belief in all religions.
And that is
But
where
hey,
we are going to leave you, folks. Tomorrow morning at noon Central Time, 10 o'clock my time, I will be doing another pain stream. That will be Pain Volume 7. If you are in pain and need to talk about it, please visit my live stream. We will talk about the kinds of pain we're in and the treatments that we can use to mollify that. Sunday morning, of course, is Acts chapter 7 for my Bible study. And that's all I got coming up other than karaoke Thursday night with Rambling Canuck, and Saturday night probably with Rambling Canuck again if I'm not too drunk.
Yes,
So,
everyone's welcome. It's usually a fun time, even if you're just in the chat. It's just 2 times a week where we can all just get together, have fun, and the only thing is there's only four main rules of karaoke on my channel. 1, no one is allowed to say jack squat negative about anybody who gets up and sings. Anybody who does that is gone.
I'm a moderator, so I get to kick you out.
Yeah,
I love it.
I have zero tolerance for that. Absolutely zero tolerance. Because for one, as far as I'm concerned, if you're in the chat and they're on the panel, guess what? They've already got more balls than you. Secondly,
yep.
Secondly, I don't care what genre of music you sing. For all I care, you could sing opera. I might have to turn my headphones down, but I will be fine with it. Right? All I ask is that you use karaoke versions, because they'll get me a copyright claim and not a strike. Using the actual song that the person in the background could get me a strike, which is really bad. A copyright claim, I don't really care. And then that's basically the two major rules. Oh yeah, and then of course mute when other people are singing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the top 3. But the main one is nobody is allowed to be negative when other people like, oh, this sounds like nails on a chalkboard. That kind of a comment gets you booted real quick.
Hey, Cinnabon Bunny, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry you missed the show, man. We got deep into Hinduism today.
But anyway, it's up to you now, Mr. CCTV.
All right. Well, thank you all again. And whatever God you pray to, God bless. All right. So have a great night, everyone. Thank you again. Or a great morning, Krishna Kumar.
Thank you.
Thank you again for joining us.
Indeed.
And we are out.